1, 2, 3, 4. All right, good evening. It is Monday night. I got to tell you, it's a quiet night, and I like quiet nights. Late March because it's about to get active. Look at the long-range forecast guidance. Next week looks very active. I know a lot of the buzz today on social media has been the big slight risk that the Storm Prediction Center put out, day 7. So you're going to see a lot of that. The thing is the Storm Prediction Center just started going like 6, 7, 8 days in the most recent couple of years, and it doesn't necessarily mean there's an outbreak of severe weather coming. It just means in that large area there's a potential for severe storms, and guess what? It's about to be April. There's going to be a potential for severe storms with every storm system that comes through. Going to talk more about that coming up after a short break, of course, but here's what's going on right now. We've got a beautiful night out there. Decatur, it's 54 degrees, and you know what? I grabbed my phone instead of my clicker, so I can't change it, but Kate's going to be on that. But real quiet tonight. We had the wind shift back to the south today. They're going to be out of the south, actually out of the north today. They're going to be out of the south tomorrow. They may gust to around 20 miles an hour, maybe a little higher later in the day. There's another frontal boundary coming in, and that front is going to cool us down a little bit, but there's no real cold air to be found. And that means no more frost or freeze, at least for the foreseeable future. But there's still a possibility. Thank you. There's still a possibility we're going to see that down the road. And Huntsville looks quiet out there tonight. We got some police action on the north side of town. I saw that on my way in, back from dinner break. So I think there may be some kind of police chase going on. But if there's anything to that, we'll have it on tonight on WFF 40 News at 10. But HPD, about 5 cruisers came flying down the parkway on my way back into work. So again, it's somewhere around Pulaski Pike. There may be some kind of chase going on. Your Tuesday looks good. 47 to start the day, and then 67 at 11 a.m. And here comes the wind I was talking about. More sustained wind. Is the mic on?
Oh yeah, we're good.
Okay, good. You make me nervous.
No, you're good.
Okay, you make me nervous when you walk over.
Little map on there.
Okay, we'll put the map back on. So, again, here's your planner for tomorrow. The winds are going to start picking up. You'll notice winds westerly at about 14 miles an hour between 11 a.m. and 3. And then we'll see some gusts around 20. The wind shifts to the west-northwest, though, tomorrow evening, and that's a weak frontal boundary coming in to cool us off a little bit. Current temperatures right now running in the 50s, some upper 40s. Fort Payne's already at 47. It's one of our cooler spots out there. Of course, the sun sets just a little bit earlier on the east side of Alabama than it does out west. And in case you're wondering, I always wonder what it's like in Key West or Nassau, Bahamas. That temperature hasn't changed all evening. That's nice. That's high humidity down there. Probably some spring breakers down there enjoying that weather. In between here, though, and there, clouds. They're going to see scattered showers and thunderstorms down there in Tampa tomorrow over towards Orlando. So if you know someone down, maybe going to Disney, something like that, they may see some showers and thunderstorms there. But around here, we're watching another front. It doesn't really show up here much on radar. You've got a few showers in Illinois. That's not going to make it down here. So overall, looking pretty good. Yeah, I know that some of you talking about your anxiety. The storm anxiety is always big this time of year because events get talked about so much more. And if you have storm anxiety, I would stay away. Stop following some of these people who are sharing all these outrageous posts about outbreaks of severe weather a week away. And I, along with other local broadcast meteorologists, feel the same way. In fact, most broadcast meteorologists feel the same way about this. These people are just trying to get clicks, and again, and I have snapshotted a lot of these posts, and at the end of the season, I'm going to be calling these people out because it's ridiculous, and I'm sick and tired of it. You know, there's no, just like this last night. Of course, we had some strong storms, but it's almost April. It's March. It's spring. We get thunderstorms. We talked about it. Some of them were severe briefly, but we had a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings that the storms did not verify to be severe. So again, just because you have a severe thunderstorm warning doesn't necessarily mean that storm is going to bring damage to your home. But there was some large hail. I won't take anything from that. But there was no need to be worried 5 days about the storms that were coming last night. So again, if there's a real threat out there, 5 days from now, we're definitely going to be ramping it up and talking about it. But as we look at the big water vapor satellite imagery, just a lot going on here. Just think of that as the ocean of the air, a lot of swirling going on. But next storm system, again, I mentioned that Storm Prediction Center outlooked a large area. There's no major storm system that's rolling through that's been identified by the model guidance. It's just the pressure pattern the way it is. And I am a little more concerned about next Wednesday based on the GFS, actually the European model, but again, that's still way out there. So we're not even going to show that on TV yet, and I'm not going to post anything on social media until it gets a little bit closer. So again, that's kind of where we are in the state of meteorology. We try to do all this research and be accurate, but yet then again, we're throwing out 7-day severe weather outlooks that aren't going to verify in many areas. So keep that in mind. Let's see, we got 250 of you on here. Again, we're on YouTube as well. Let me see if I got any YouTube questions here real quick. Nope. We've got 27 concurrent viewers. So again, it's a slow Monday night. I told you it'd be slow tonight because there's not much going on. Pollen forecast. Wow, it's way up there, and it's going to stay high for quite some time as we take a look at the extreme pollen. And I mentioned this earlier today. What happens is we initially get pollen around February, and it comes in from the southerly winds, these storm systems that bring in that strong south wind, and that pollen is from the trees that pollinate around here about 2 weeks later. So we get, let's say the Bradford pears start pollinating in Texas, the coastal areas of Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, and then you get the dogwoods that start pollinating, the pine trees, the elm trees, whatever it is, it's going to pollinate farther south first because they're getting more sunlight, they're getting warmer temperatures first. So that south wind brings that pollen in, and then we go about 2-3 weeks from that, and then our pollen starts to develop as our trees start to bloom. So we get our own pollen, and then as you'll see for the rest of this week, we get that north wind coming in late tomorrow. It's blowing in the pollen from the trees that are now blooming to the north. So our Bradford pears have already bloomed. However, the Bradford pears, as you go into Iowa, northern Missouri, Illinois, those are just starting to bloom. So when that strong north wind comes in, it brings all that pollen back. So I hope that explains why we have such a long pollen season in the southeast. Whereas the farther north you go, they tend to only deal with 2 periods of that, where they'll get pollen from Kansas, Nebraska, and then they get probably pollen from Canada, right? So, something like that. So that's why it's so long. That, and you know, we got a warmer climate going on. Things are going to bloom a little bit longer, and it just kind of stays that way. Makes some of us miserable out there, especially if we don't have we're not on our meds, right? Here's the rain chances to blow out some of that pollen. 40% Saturday. We're going to go through this coming up in a few minutes. Here's your 3-day forecast. 77 tomorrow. Enjoy it. Again, enjoy the rest of this week. It's going to be really, really nice. And it's after this extended period of nice weather, it's probably not going to be so nice beginning this weekend. And next week, we may have periods of storms lining up that roll through the area. 73 Thursday. And then no frost or freeze showing up over the next 10 days, but I would wait until April 15th at least, or at least until April 15th shows up on that 10-day forecast so we get a better idea on that trend. We're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back in 1 minute. All right, we got 10 seconds remaining. Then we're going to talk about the weekend. Everybody's favorite topic, the weekend. All right, let's talk about what's going on this weekend. This is a look at Saturday. I don't have the clouds on here, but we do have the chance of rain coming in. And we're going to watch Saturday. I think Saturday could get noisy as a warm front kind of lifts through with scattered showers and thunderstorms. Well, we did drop to 138. So we had 200 people before that commercial break, and I said, I bet we're going to be down to 150 by the end of the break, and we are down to 130. You guys don't like that commercial break. We need video in there, but again. All right, let's talk about this. This is Saturday around 4 o'clock. Again, this is still a long way out as far as the models go, but we expect scattered showers and storms to form as we go later into the afternoon into Saturday night. And with this setup here, I would likely think we'd be pretty rain cooled by Saturday evening with temperatures falling into the low 60s and perhaps some stronger thunderstorms down to the south. But this is one thing we're going to watch. There's several things that can interrupt severe weather outbreaks, as we saw just about 10 days ago. You get rain, and it was almost like we had too much lift that day and the showers fired early. We needed a bigger cap. I say we needed it in order to have that outbreak, but thankfully we didn't have it, so that's what happened. So Sunday morning, looking at 5 a.m., some scattered showers and storms, and then mainly late in the day, we could see more activity. I posted this graphic on my social media, and this is just proof positive. If you're new to the area, this is why we watch every storm closely. We've had 609 tornadoes in the state of Alabama since 1925. Don't get hung up on the numbers. This is the period where we have the most violent weather in North Alabama and southern Middle Tennessee. Not every tornado is an EF3, EF4, EF5. Those are the exceptional type tornadoes. Most of our tornadoes are EF0, EF1, to be honest. We've seen a lot more of those lately, and I think one thing that leads to seeing more of those is technology. The radar's seeing it better. There's more people seeing these. Social media gets the word out faster, as if you've had damage. In the olden days, you had to pick up a telephone and say, well, we've had tornado damage, and they may or may not come out. So you couldn't just share photos. You had to drive all the way out there and see the damage. So I think that's a really big factor in the number of tornadoes increasing. But this graphic obviously shows you, regardless of that, it's a higher trend here for tornadoes in March and April, especially late March, early April. So we'll have to watch that very closely, make sure you're aware. Again, if you didn't feel like you were prepared for our last severe weather event that was kind of a bust, and I'm glad it was a bust, if you felt nervous, like you were not prepared for that, we're still in that time frame here over the next 6 weeks that we may have a situation develop like that you do need to be prepared for. We basically start to relax a little bit more at the end of May, all summer. During the summer, our biggest threats are hail, microburst damaging winds, and frequent lightning because more people are outside. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Let's see, Clay had a... Yeah, and there's just no way you can determine a tornado outbreak at least 3 days out. I mean, there's some. I mean, April 27th, 2011, we kind of had an idea that was going down. But, you know, leading up to that, we had been talking about an Albertville tornado that had happened a year prior. So we were kind of doing reports from Albertville on that. And we had another potential outbreak that was, it was like a lot of people forget about this, but there was an outbreak of severe weather. There was a high risk before April 27th. I think it was the 17th, maybe April 7th. I was out in California. I was on spring break, and I was nervous that, man, I wasn't going to be there for that. But it busted for us, but they had severe weather in the Birmingham area. But here's your 10-day forecast. It's that Saturday, Sunday time frame we're watching, and then Wednesday. A week from this Wednesday, again, that's way out there. But the key point here is the models are getting a lot more aggressive with the pattern of every 3 days, significant storm systems rolling through. And April looks like it's going to be a very active month for us. It's a La Nina year, and based on that, I would, again, make sure you're prepared for that. Havoc are in town, by the way. Thursday's a makeup game from when we had the winter storm that didn't quite winter storm on us. It wasn't as bad as we thought. We got the snow, but it just didn't stick to the roads. That was good. Yes, I did watch the movie Twister there on Netflix. Thought it was good. I thought they left out a lot of stuff that could have been talked about. I think, I know there were a lot of other storm chasers out there that had different video of that, and it would have been nice to have seen that. But yeah, some of the stories were just incredible about the lady who left her phone on and she was recording on the dashboard, and they went in, just amazing survival story out of that. And I do encourage you to watch that. I mean, that was an EF5 tornado that's ripped through Joplin. I was in Joplin a few months ago, and you can still see the damage from that tornado. In fact, I had a film crew that was coming up to interview me about the April 27th tornado outbreak from Australia, and they didn't do my interview because Joplin happened. They went right to Joplin. But that was a horrible tornado. So of that year, Tuscaloosa got the most attention, and then Joplin. And North Alabama was really forgotten in the outbreak. And we had the worst tornadoes up here in North Alabama. So that's one thing that I will never forget, is how we just kind of did our own thing up here. And all the initial aid went south of us, because a lot of these groups, they want to know if they're going to a disaster area, so they're going to get their disaster declaration money, or the money from that. So they just drove right through, because it took forever for North Alabama to be declared a disaster area. I remember Madison County, it took forever. So I kind of resented that, and I think a lot of others. But man, we did our own thing. We were out of power for a week or more in some areas. We made it through. Yeah, it is good. Always have a plan. Well, all right. We are about 10 minutes out from our newscast. I've enjoyed chatting with you guys. We recruited about 30 more people here since our commercial break, and hopefully that commercial break will get a little jazzier over time. We'll see. You guys take care.